It's Doctor Doom, but not as you know it. This lad is going all technical as we see the infamous Iron Man, and whether or not he can live up to the good and great name of Doctor Doom. Infamous Iron Man or Doctor Doom, you know, Victor Von Doom, whatever you want to call it. Okay, this is pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting because if this is the first champion that's released in September, kind of don't think it's going to be. It's going to mean for a very spicy 6-star featured crystal when it drops on the 1st of November. Because I think and I believe and I can confirm that within the 1st of November crystal, we will get Galen, Quicksilver, Valkyrie, Gore, Wiccan, some great champions. I think mainly for Galen and Quicksilver, which is the champions I'm personally going for, although I do want to get Valkyrie at the same time. You are also going to see the 1st of September champion. First September champion, which will be either Infamous Iron Man or it's going to be Titania. And let's face it, for me, I'm personally interested in the fact we might have like a god tier tech champion after a long time of waiting. Champions that can do this. Yes, that do be a lot of critical power burn damage, especially from taking what's theirs and inflicting a lot of shock damage onto enemies, which again I absolutely love. There is tons to go over when it comes to Infamous Iron Man. The mechanics, as Kabam of Black Bear, is like a big waffle right here. In a nutshell, it just basically sells this champion to a lot of players, and I'm not going to like read this entirely out, but I will be just basically saying that if you want to counter for any type of mutant champion or any champion that gains prowess, and as well say Bishop is basically the main counter for this, building a lot of power, you can absolutely slap the heck out of that champion, especially building the prowess buff by turning it into yes, positive things for you, like an energy vulnerability debuff. That's always helpful because you're going to be able to slap the heck out of a champion and also burn the heck out of a champion, and as well do lots of burst damage to these enemy champions, which again, love it, big thumbs up. Visual representation of that is on screen right now, especially when you're going to see an interaction with Bishop. But you can go from a slap to right into a special attack, which is going to be really beneficial. We're going to go over that in a minute. But you can see the energy vulnerability being switched over from that prowess being removed and then slapping back an enemy. Again, great. The Bishop stuff is so satisfying to watch. I'm really looking forward to getting this champion and slapping the heck out of Bishops that people place on stupid nodes in Alliance Wars. Yes, roll on the next season, getting this champion, or next 2 seasons, and doing exactly the same punishment. Take that, people who think they're cunning and think they've got good, well, defensive champions. The champion sadly isn't going to be a good counter for crit me with your best. Is it crit me with my best shot or crit me with whatever it is? The one where you got to do crits in order to actually do damage, because when he would land a critical hit, he instead inflicts instant shock dealing energy damage. Now I don't know if that's kind of like a thing that could interact with, but I'll take it literally on that particular node, so maybe he's not good for that one. If an opponent would gain 2 more prowess effects at once, those prowesses are converted into a single indefinite energy vulnerability debuff. Again, we're talking about the counter to the likes of Professor X, Bishop, anything that's really a mutant. I don't know why I'm trying to like pause there, but yeah, any mutant champion or any kind of like cosmic champion that would build that particular prowess buff, so he's able to kind of like sort that. Oh no, hang on, would that work class advantage or disadvantage? That would be interesting as well, because that could be an inhibitor. I'm not reading anything that would be a class disadvantage that he would not gain that particular ability or have it suppressed for him. So that's really good. That means that like you could go against Cosmics and still have that particular prowess suppression or removal ability. Champion already gets a armor up buff, which again is another like fantastic thing to deal with certain situations where he has to have an armor up buff in order to deal with stuff. I mean, again, an example, Havoc, and if you've got a armor up buff, but I'm not saying it's exclusively that, but what I'm talking about is the application throughout the game where you have to have an armor up buff because of whatever reason in order to kind of like, I don't know, do a thing with some nodes, because there are nodes out there. But if you are wondering whether or not he retains some sort of like weird interactions or immunities, he is still shock immune but does need that armor up buff. But also with the armor up buff, he's incinerate immune as well. Again, another fantastic bit of interactional based stuff. And as well, this is fantastic for hazard shift. Recently, coming back to Alliance Wars, I think there is a hazard shift where you need a shock and incinerate immunity. Don't quote me on that one. I'm either being completely mad or I'm thinking about like, okay, well, what's the option for this? It's either that was like poison and incinerate or something. But let's say theoretically there is a hazard shift that requires you to have shock and incinerate. This will be a counter for that. So that's great. Honestly, love it. In a positive move, the Doom Slap is back. I mean, that was said in the early part, which you read. And that is that while charging a heavy attack, if the opponent is within striking distance and suffer from a shock effect, all their shock effects are consumed and replaced with a passive stun for 0.6 seconds. This cannot trigger during the opponent's special attacks. The final hit of the Iron Man's infamous heavy attack inflicts a non-stacking cowardice debuff, reducing the opponent's special attack damage by 40% for 5 seconds. When one or more shocks are consumed by Iron Man's infamous ability, he triggers Aura of Iron for 2.6 seconds for each shock removed if it's not already active. So you want to get that Aura of Iron up, and we'll find out what that means right now. Now, there seems to be a lot with this Aura of Iron, and I do welcome you to go to the forums and check out this spotlight for yourself, especially because there's a lot of things to read with it. In particular, the extent of like how you inflict your shocks and how they then convert to power burns, because it's based on a percentage of the opponent's current power based on the potency of the replaced shocks, which then deal X amount of energy damage depending on the rarity of the champion. So there's a lot of fundamental and complex elements to that. But in a nutshell, I would say with this, there's defensive applications, which is all about you're able to be passively unstoppable and stun immune against the last hit of an SP1, SP2 and heavy attacks, and also have something where if you're being attacked and it exceeds a certain amount, that you gain a regeneration buff and restore over 5 seconds. That particular element can be seen in the footage coming up. So on screen right now, you'll see it right here. You see the player being attacked. He then goes, snaps out the stun immune, gets the regeneration, and then goes like, unblockable and that stuff. So there we go. That's that scene out, that defensive ability. But it does seem that the kind of the way this champion and how the damage potential is really kind of like exacted and executed is the correct word, is through the SP2. The SP2 does have, after the first hit of his attack lands, Iron Man Infamous gains attack rating, first of all, and also filled for each of the opponent's filled bars of power for the remainder of the attack. So it's like build up to smack the champion when he's got an SP3, or she's got an SP3, or whatever champion has an SP3, like that's when you smash it in. Because each beam inflicts a shock debuff gaining 2, 7, whatever it is, depending on the rarity, energy damage over 5 seconds, and as well, if you win the Aura of Tech, then you will do some extensive amount of damage as a result. So it's kind of like seems pretty cool. The SP3 as well, because the SP1 is not really something you want to really kind of like mess around with. But the SP3 side of things, on activation, enter Aura of Iron for 24 seconds. That's handy for a rotation perspective. This Aura cannot be ended early and until the next expires. Has a critical rating improvement for each opponent's filled bars of power. So maybe do an SP3 and when you have an SP2 potentially, or if Aura of Iron was already active, both Iron Man Infamous and his opponent gain energize passive, increasing their combat power rating by 100% each, lasting until Aura of Iron next expires. So whether or not you want to do an SP3 and then build up and do an SP2, that could be the way of kind of like exacting a great amount of damage on that particular rotation. But the developer notes, I combine this special with SP1 to truly have your opponent at your mercy, since the special lock from SP1 lasts until the aura next expires. They will be special locked for up to 20 seconds, depending on how fast you get to the SP1. During that time, you'll be critting and power burning like crazy, so make sure throw his special just after you throw your heavy attack to get that juicy energize. It seems strange that the opponent gets one as well, but it's all according to Doom's plans, as it will only serve to raise the power bar. Okay, so that's the rotation there, that you go to SP3, SP1, and then it's make sure to throw his like crazy. So make sure to throw special after you throw your heavy attack to get that juicy damage. So heavy attack, so it's SP3, heavy attack, SP1, and then what, SP2 to just smash off a good amount of damage if that's the case after that one. Just, it's very interesting to see the future champion and the rotation. The signature ability looks pretty incredible, especially being that you can regenerate, and I really wanted to get like an awakened version of this champion. Regenerate 35% depending on the extent of the signature ability level. That's incredible. And as well, with the armor up buff, you get energy resistance, and you get yourself a nice little amount of block proficiency. So there's some amazing stuff there. There's a lot of stuff going for this champion, which I absolutely love with the awakened ability. Look, champions don't need to be awakened to be good, but they do a lot of stuff depending on your interaction, what you want to achieve from the champion, and also getting a get out of jail free card, which the champion gets with a signature ability. There's some really cool little synergies that are available for the champion. There's a really interesting one, which is one with Penny Parker, which I don't know if that affects just Penny Parker or part of the synergy champions, which, if it's the case, having, as it says here, you are able to switch the immunities. So the immunity to the debuffs you're going to throw, like if you throw shock in a fight that the champion is shock immune, you'll instead throw an incinerate. So there's that, could be really cool, that synergy there. There's tons, we'll probably go over it if there's anything that really stands out. But yeah, that's been the coverage of this particular champion, Infamous Iron Man. I'm actually pretty sold on this. Titania looks good and Infamous Iron Man looks good. Two pretty impressive champions for two different types of reasons, and the tech version of Dr. Doom is definitely doing bits that I really rate. So really looking forward to seeing this champion. I really hope it's the first one, because then that means it's in the next 6-star featured, and I don't want to have to wait till the next one for it, but we'll have to see. Thank you very much for watching this video. Check out some other content which is located on the screen right now. I think that's it for video coverage. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll be live streaming a little bit later on. So yeah, thanks everybody. See you all soon. Cheers and bye-bye.